Everybody, welcome back to the channel. Happy New Year. I know what you're thinking. It's the start of the year. How am I going to get my money out there on the street working for me? Because Robbie Krager, the Flip Flop Flipper, always says you want your money to work as hard as you do. So guys, we have conversations with people who are doing exciting things. If you like that kind of thing, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Today, we're having a conversation with Warren Ross. And Warren is doing something that I've never heard of anybody doing before. He's buying civil judgments. And these civil judgments basically are uncollectible, have almost no value. He buys them at pennies on the dollar. He does a ton of work and research. And then he goes and collects the uncollectible debt. And he's going to tell us about it. He's going to tell us how he does it. He's going to talk about some of the crazy stories that he's got. It's an exciting conversation. I think it's one where he puts his money out there, and he'll even put your money out there to work harder than you do. And he gets some massive returns. Guys, we love to think about how we can get to passive income, maybe investing with Warren Ross in his fund and buying some of these distressed judgments that don't have any value. Imagine turning $5,000 into $100,000. That's what Warren is doing. He's going to talk to you about it. Check this out. Let's talk about it in the comments. I know you guys are going to like this one. Give it a thumbs up. I'll see you on the other side.
We do something totally different than anything I had ever heard of before. We buy uncollected civil judgments. Some people have referred to us as the judgment guys, but what we do is civil justice. So we buy uncollected civil judgments. The unfortunate reality in our world is that there are liars, cheaters, and thieves out there. When they lie, cheat, and steal, they are often sued. And the judge often finds against them. And so the end result of the lawsuit is called a judgment. Those judgments are usually not collected. You're probably familiar with judgments against tenants because it becomes part of the process of eviction in many jurisdictions, that you also have a small judgment that comes with that because your tenant owes you money that they haven't paid. The probability of collecting from those judgments is next to zero, because you got to find the money and then you got to actually get it moved into your account from their account, and that takes a considerable process. And unless it's worth doing. So I had come to the opinion, because of real estate transactions and real estate tenant judgments that we had, that judgments were a waste of time and worthless. And then my dad and his real estate partner that were in Cincinnati doing some commercial real estate transactions. And as they did that, they met a man named Rod Gagnon. And Rod has been for now 40 years a financial investigator, certified fraud examiner. And what he does is he finds where the money got lost. And so what you have to do in order to enforce judgments is you have to discover where the strategic non-payer, or what I like to call the white-collar bad guy, where did they hide the money and how did they do it? If you can find the money, then you can enforce the judgment. And so what we do now is we've created a business where we buy uncollected civil judgments that we've pre-vetted. And instead of getting a 30 or 40% ROI, we get 1,000% ROI, because we can buy the judgments very inexpensively, because nobody else is doing that and nobody knows how to collect what we're collecting on. And then with the right moves in the legal enforcement part of our business, we're able to take something that we bought, let's say, for $5,000 or $10,000 and turn that into $50,000 or $100,000 because of we found where the assets were hidden.
If you bought 100 judgments, how many would you expect to collect on?
The statistics are that 80% of those judgments will remain uncollected. So we're buying from the 80% of uncollected judgments, and we flip that number on its head because of our pre-vetting process, and we collect 8 out of 10, where the rest of the world collects 2 out of 10.
So you'll pre-vet the judgments. They'll send you a list. You'll kind of pre-investigate, see who you think you can kind of track down the money, and then buy those. But
yes. Anybody who has done fix and flip properties can understand a little bit about the process, because what you're doing is your deal flow is finding a real estate investment that nobody else wants, that's run down, that's broken, that you can fix, repair, for a reasonable amount of money, turn it into something valuable. So you buy it cheap enough, you fix it up, and then you flip it. You sell it to somebody else because now it's valuable. You bought it when it was run down and it was, it was the property that you walked by and it had weeds growing and you were able to find out how to buy that property. You fixed it all up. Now it's pretty. And now you sell it at market value, but you bought it way below market value and still bought it at a wholesale price that allowed you enough so that all the deferred maintenance gets paid and your property is improved. We do the same thing with judgments. But the difference is we're finding a judgment that nobody knows how to collect,
Right.
but we've pre-vetted it to say we have an idea how we're going to collect that. Then we buy it, let's say for on average 5 cents on the dollar.
Wow.
And so $100,000 judgment that nobody else can collect. We've done some pre-vetting. We go, oh, we think we know what might have happened here. Tell you what, Mr. Judgment Creditor, we can't give you much, but we'll give you something instead of nothing because nothing is what they've got right now, what they're probably going to get unless they can find somebody that can collect on. And so even though technically this piece of paper is worth $100,000, we're going to buy it for $5,000. And the real value that I give to the judgment creditor is the ability to move on with their life.
Mm.
They have bitterness and anger because of what have happened to them. And it's not really about the money anymore at this point because we're buying judgments that are 3 to 5 years old typically. And all they're judgments that nobody else can do anything with. And they're in a situation that just the knowledge that somebody's going to go after this guy that did wrong and caused this judgment to happen. Each case is different. Judgments are caused by all different kinds of reasons. But there's something that the judgment creditor is dealing with that is very unpleasant. And to be able to let go of that and let go of the bitterness and move on with their life so they can actually move forward with whatever else they're doing can be a really big benefit. So we take that $5,000 judgment that is a $100,000 judgment that we paid $5,000 for. We go through, we verify our pre-vetting. We pay another $5,000 to $10,000 to enforce it. So now let's say we have $15,000 into this judgment, and then we collect at least $50,000, and sometimes $100,000 or more, depending on the situation.
And
Every
with an
juris,
80% success rate, I mean, that is a pretty huge return on investment there. And
it
we actually
is.
say the same thing about investment houses. We're looking for properties that are decrepit, that are hoarder houses, that no one else wants to touch. And the reason that we're able to make a profit and make money is we're helping people get out of something that they don't even want.
Yeah,
They don't want this on the books. There's a lot of parallels there.
there are. And that's why I brought that up because most people that are watching this will know that that's a process that works really well with fix and flips. If you can find the ugly houses, the people that have seen the "we buy ugly houses" idea is really what works for fix and flip. You have to buy something that has no value to anybody else, and the person who has it now just needs to get rid of it. If
Right.
they can walk away, and just, I mean, a lot of them, if they can walk away and not owe anything, they're super excited
Yeah.
because
You
these are
should put some
people.
signs out there. We buy ugly judgments.
Yeah, there you go. That's what we do is we buy ugly judgments. We buy the judgments nobody else can collect on. And that then we go after those white collar bad guys that have created the problem, the situation.
So are you buying these judgments usually from banks, or are you buying one-offs? It'll just be the result of a lawsuit and they only have one and you just reach out to them cold, or are there lists out there, or what's your acquisition process on these?
The answer is yes. We
All
buy
of it.
from banks, we buy from one-offs, we buy from anybody who has a judgment. And our typical deal flow, we have more deals, more judgments to buy than we can buy at this
Hmm.
point. And so all of the judgments are public record. Anybody can walk into any of the 3,124 counties in the United States and find in the public records uncollected judgments. You go look through the civil court cases and you can find, oh, there's a judgment that the judge issued. And you go through the court records on that case and there's no satisfaction that had been issued. And then you have in the court records the contact information for the judgment creditor and you can go buy that. The probability, though, is that at that point you're still not going to collect anything. So the 5,000 you just paid for a $100,000 judgment, it means you just lost $5,000.
Right.
Because unless you can actually enforce that judgment, whatever you pay is money that you've lost.
And
Uh,
that's where you're uniquely positioned because you have that financial investigation
our
track
our
record.
business boils down to financial investigation. So what we do is we find because the judgment value has nothing to do with the case or the judgment creditor. It doesn't matter how bad a situation this was or how much of a jerk the judgment debtor is. It matters how many assets we can find that the judgment debtor has hidden.
Hmm.
Because what's usually happened, no, not all the time. There are situations that are genuinely very ugly on both sides, and the judgment debtor really has lost everything and he's bankrupt and there's nothing you can do about it. Uh, there are the rest of the time, the ones that we go after are the ones where there's a little bit of maliciousness involved. Typically, the judgment debtor is really sophisticated in his own mind, at least, and has hidden money in a way that nobody else is going to be able to collect. For example, one of the cases we just collected on, we bought a case, and the judgment debtor we had discovered in our pre-vetting had transferred for no cost a whole bunch of his property to his brother's name. Now, fraudulent transfers are things that can be reversed. In this case, it was interesting to note that his brother had died 5 years earlier. So, what he was doing is he was living on paper his brother's life. So, all the things he used, his cars, his houses, his money, was all his brother's.
Hmm.
And all the debts he had were his. So
Wow.
instead of paying his debts, which would have been the right thing to do, he chose not to pay his debts, allow judgment creditors to create all these. I think we had one or two judgments against him. And all we had to do was get in front of the judge and show the judge how all the money had gone over to this brother's name, who was dead, and fraudulently. And so we were able to take all of these transfers that were fraudulent and get them all reversed. So everything went back to his name, and all of a sudden they could be enforced through the courts. And then he had a choice. He could keep his house or he could pay us. In this case, he chose to pay us. We're not here to be malicious against him, even though he needed to learn this lesson. We showed him how he could refinance his house, and then he could use that refinance money to take cash out and pay us and keep his house. And hopefully he can learn how to start paying his debts.
Many times that people do make offers, they hear, oh, somebody new has got my judgment. They likely bought it at 10 cents on the dollar. Maybe I offer them 20 or 25 cents on the dollar and settle with them right away. Avoid all of the headaches. Does that happen?
We
Do you accept
we
that
would
kind of
settle with
payoff
people if they
if they
did come
did
to us
that?
like that, but most of them are they need a lesson. They need to pay. They learn a lesson because they don't think we're going to collect anything, and
They
so
believe they're uncollectible.
they
Hmm.
do. Most people have the idea that they uniquely have become judgment proof. And we've all heard all kinds of advertisements for how you can become judgment proof. And the problem with people that are choosing to lie, cheat, and steal is they do something along those lines where they believe they have become judgment proof and they have no liability for any of the wrongs they have done. The unfortunate reality is if you do wrong in regard to, creating a big debt, let's say you bought a house, you chose not to pay for it, the creditor still is going to take the house.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with all of these other situations. You can put all the money in a trust, or you can hide it here or hide it there. Or, in the case, transfer it to your brother's name, like the story that I already told.
Right.
And the judge is going to look at it and say, no, you can't do that to defraud creditors. That's inappropriate to transfer this to your brother's name. And especially in a case like this, your brother isn't even alive anymore. And you're doing this to pretend that it's very obvious what you're doing in cases like that. Or in this case, the judgment debtor in Detroit was like, no, it's not it's somebody else. He has my name, but it's not me. No. We start looking, putting all the pieces together. By the time we were done, almost a year later, the judge was very clear that no, this really is you, and you really are the one that created this problem. So
Hmm.
no,
And
you
how
have
many of these do you do in a year?
Right now, it just depends. We started in 2019, and I suppose it was a pretty small number at the beginning. I got involved myself. My dad and Jay were partners for the last 20 or 30 years, and I became involved in the business in 2022. And since then, we probably buy three or four a month is kind of where we're at right now. We're looking at scaling that to about 10 times.
Hmm.
And that gives an opportunity for investors, if they want a passive investment, to invest in our business, and we can double their money in 2 years or less. So if you want to just double your money without doing anything, we can have a direct investment, and we'll take that money. The two things that money goes to is buying the judgment, collecting the judgment, and then you can just benefit from what we're doing without having to learn all of the minutia that I just described, because there is a lot of stuff involved in learning how to be a financial private investigator.
So if I'm an investor and I want some passive income, or if I want to double my money in a couple years, sounds really good. What am I getting for giving you the investment? Like if somebody becomes a lender on a piece of real estate, they'll get a first mortgage.
Yep.
In your case, do you have a fund set up, or do they get ownership of your business? How do you settle that?
We have two different ways. The way that we have available right now as a direct investment is it's a loan to Acorn Funding Group with collateral of judgments that we already own that are at least 5 times face value of whatever the loan is. So, for example, we have a particular pool of judgments available right now as we're recording this, that the collateral that we're looking at is around $6 million. We're raising $1 million, which we will pay 2 million for. So the $1 million of investment money will turn into 2 million, and then we will take the million and we'll collect 6 million, pay the investors their double their investment, and the balance will go to keeping our business running and paying for payroll and all of the expenses involved in our business. So that's an example of what we do. Is the collateral are judgments that are in the process of being collected that are at least 5 times face value of whatever the investment is.
Yeah.
And then do you guys do like so if it's a loan, it's just a set return, an interest
Yes.
rate, or okay.
The way that we do it as the direct investment is it's just a set return. We're going to take your money, and in 2 years or less, we're going to double it. So you give me 100,000, I will give you 200,000 back in 2 years or less. That's the direct investment. We also have set up an alternative investment fund, and as soon as we get a little bit more momentum, we will start using that. And the uh, hold period for that is going to be 5 years or more, and I expect that will quadruple your investment. So, based on the numbers that we're looking at. So there's a lot of different ways that people can get involved, but you could also learn how to do this yourself. But the problem with learning how to do it yourself is the same problem as everyone might have in buying ugly homes and learning how to flip them. You have to start doing it, and you're going to discover that there's some lessons that you're going to learn if you pay attention to what other people have done. You're going to learn a lot faster because you can learn from what they already have taught you. But some things you just have to learn by doing it.
What's a great way for someone to contact you?
There's several different ways that you can contact me. I am available on LinkedIn, so you can look for me, Warren Ross. I think it's Warren Ross, Idaho. There's more than one Warren Ross out there, but LinkedIn is a good way. You can send me an email. That would be wr@acornfundinggroup.com. That would work. And just go ahead and either email me, reach out to me on LinkedIn, and I would be very happy to explain more about what we do, and especially the passive investment side. That's something that if you're looking to diversify, there are very few things that are not correlated to the economy. Ray Dalio talks about, and Tony Robbins in his investment book that he just came out with. Um, Talk about how if you can diversify, it really changes your risk ratios tremendously. Most things are correlated. So when you diversify within real estate, that helps. But if they're all real estate investments, you're still correlated with each other in a certain way because they're all real estate. The
Right.
correlation is something that connects. The interesting thing about what we do is the economy could go over a cliff, and we would actually probably do a little better than what we're doing now. If the economy does great, we're going to continue to do well because unfortunately there are still scam artists, liars, and cheaters out there.
Well, and if the economy does great, people who are in trouble, who have judgments, might turn their life around and then have some money one day too, and you have a
Yes,
chance to collect that way as well.
that is
So
accurate.